Good afternoon. My name is Tom Reynolds. I'm the Dean of the Graduate School at UNC Charlotte, and it is my very great pleasure to welcome you to the 2022 Spring New Graduate Student Orientation. We're really pleased with the turnout today and think that you'll have an opportunity to learn things and to get you well started on your program of study at graduate school at UNC Charlotte. I'm going to keep my remarks brief because we have a lot of ground to cover today, but I did want to say a little bit about the mission of UNC Charlotte and your very important role in that mission. Universities are very often known for different activities. Some universities are specialized in undergraduate education. Davidson College is a great example of that. Other universities specialize in professional schools. High Point University is a great example of that type of university. UNC Charlotte is a research university. Okay, what does that mean? Well, besides the obvious, it's a place where we conduct research, scholarship, and other great activity. It's also important that the instructional mission of the university is tied to that activity through graduate education. So that's one of the reasons that graduate schools or research universities are known not only by the quality of the research that is conducted at the institution, but also by the quality of the researchers, scholars, creative artists, entrepreneurs, leaders that are educated and trained as the next generation of leaders in their respective fields. So without graduate education, a research university can't function, and without graduate students, graduate education cannot function. So we're incredibly happy that you're here and that you have joined us as you continue your studies. Again, today, I think we'll have a number of interesting things for you to know and to learn and to find out. But again, it's just an hour, and so this is not going to provide you everything you'll need to know throughout your career. But I did want to point out that certainly your departments and your faculty will be a good source of that information, but also that we're here at the graduate school, and we'll be happy to help you out because your success is important to our success. So with that, I will wish you a happy new year and great success in your careers. And I'll turn it over to Dr. Joe Huerta, who is our Executive Director for the Center of Graduate Life and Learning. Joe.
Thank you, Dean Reynolds. Welcome, everyone. Happy New Year. So glad to see you joining us here today at New Graduate Student Virtual Orientation. As Dean Reynolds said, I am Executive Director of the Center for Graduate Life and Learning, and it is great to be with you here virtually, and I'm glad that we planned this virtually because, as you know, all activities for the first couple weeks, all classes are going to be virtual this semester until January 24th. And this kind of highlights a big need that you'll have during grad school, which is to stay flexible. We were just chatting at the beginning before we got online, and we were chatting about the need to troubleshoot and the need to be flexible and pivot when necessary. And this is a great example of that. So glad you've done that and joined us. I'm going to be brief also. I have two major points that I'd like to make as we kick this off today. And then we'll go to our Associate Dean, Dr. Catherine Hall-Hertel, and then to Dr. Ora Young, who will moderate a panel for you. And I'd like to invite you to begin chatting in any questions you have now to the panel so that they'll be queued up and ready for them when that happens. But back to my two main points. The first point I want to make is this is a special moment. This is the start of your graduate education. This is the start of your graduate school journey. And I want you to take a moment and appreciate this moment. it takes a lot to get to where you are right now. There are many, many people in the population who would like to be where you are right now, who hope to one day begin a graduate degree. It's not something everyone gets to do, and it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of perseverance, a lot of creativity, a lot of troubleshooting and problem solving and flexibility to get to where you are now. And I'd like to demonstrate that a little bit. So if you will, do me a favor. And if you have needed to move to pursue your graduate degree from another country, from another state, from another city, across town, chat that in. Chat to me where you're moving from. New York City, India, Florida, another New York City, South Carolina, St. Louis, West Virginia, Bangladesh. Woo, I can't keep up. Ethiopia, I think I saw. Greensboro, China, Charlotte, Ghana. You get the point. We have people moving, as it turns out, mid-pandemic. We didn't think the numbers would be so high, but navigating a move during tough times to get ready for your graduate degree. Let's do another one. If you are a parent, if you are a caretaker of someone, of your parents or of another individual, or a step parent, or you have some responsibility to someone else that you have had to figure out to do this graduate degree, chat that in. Chat who you take care of, how many kids you have, what it is you've had to work out. So 2 children and a husband, parent of 3, Army spouse, my active 7-year-old son, I feel you. A baby daughter, 3 kids, 1 kid, a husband. So you get the point. We, as a group, you are figuring a lot of things out. Let's do one more for fun. If you are someone who works full-time or even part-time, and you're going to need to figure out that schedule and to fit your degree around that work, do me a favor and let us know where you work or what you do for a living. Share that with us. Parent of a teen and an RN, and not easy to be an RN right now. Oncology RN, Bank of America. I think I saw a city manager. Ooh, they're flying by. Full-time teacher, Ally. Ally is one of our partners in some of our professional development. Supply chain manager. We need you very badly right now. We hope you stay very focused on your job. Deloitte, elementary school teacher. Great, great. So you get the point. You have all had to figure these situations out. You've had to figure your schedules out. And this is without even going into that you've had to figure out how to finance your education. You had to do all the steps that it takes to submit your application, and you've had to succeed as undergraduates. So you had the grades to be admitted as graduates. So it hasn't been easy to get to the beginning where you are now. I want to congratulate you on getting to the beginning, and I want to encourage you to draw on this in the future, because grad school is a little bit hard. Sooner or later, you're going to feel it a little bit, right? You're going to feel the challenge. You wouldn't be here excited to do it if that weren't true. And when you feel that challenge, and when you start to wonder, you know, am I up for it? I want you to think about everything you've done so far to get to this point, and all the skills and the creativity and the innovation that you've used to figure it out, and use that to have faith in yourself to figure things out moving forward. So if you're wondering if we made a mistake by admitting you, something called imposter syndrome, we did not. We are very careful about who we admit. So you are up for it, and you have the skills, you've already used them. The second point I want to make is that you don't need to do this alone. there is an enormous amount of support for you as you pursue your graduate degree. And I know Dr. Hall-Hertel is going to talk about much of that support, but I want to talk about my favorite part of that support, which is the Center for Graduate Life and Learning. I don't have time to tell you everything we do, but in a nutshell, we oversee professional development, community building, and wellness for all of the graduate students on campus. That means that we help you build skills like academic writing. We have all kinds of writing support, build your teaching skills. We help you explore different career options. We help you with your job search skills, public speaking, your ability to work with diverse teams, all different critical skills that you might not get in your disciplinary program, you can get with us. On top of that, we do social programming. So many of you have already registered for the game night that we're holding next week. It has been converted to be a virtual game night. This is an important part of your graduate education, interacting with people outside of your departments. And what I'd like to encourage you to do is put those activities on your calendars now. You can go to the events calendar for the Center for Graduate Life and Learning. And if someone could chat that link out now, that would be great. You can go there and look already at what we have scheduled for this semester, and you can register for those events, and you can put it on your calendar and make an intentional effort to engage and to grow yourself in ways other than through your discipline. And you should do that because it's fun. You should do it because it's good for you. And you should do it because research shows that students who engage outside of their programs in an interdisciplinary environment will be more satisfied with their graduate school experience. They will be more successful in graduate school, and they'll produce better outcomes when they graduate. I want to leave you with one final thought, which is the Center for Graduate Life and Learning is a place you can always go with any kind of question that you have. You can call us, you can email us, you can walk right in, and no matter what challenge you're facing or question you have, we will take care of you. Now, we won't always have the answer to your question, but we will connect you with the right person to answer your question, and we'll follow up. We are a place you can take any kind of question. So with that, I want to welcome you again and encourage you to keep learning and growing throughout your whole time here. And hand it over to Associate Dean, Dr. Catherine Hall-Hertel.
Thanks, Jill. As Jill said, I'm Catherine Hall-Hertel, and I'm the Associate Dean for Graduate Academic and Student Affairs in the Graduate School. And I want to add my welcome. It's great to see everybody here. Jill has given you so much great advice already. My job is to give you some information, and the idea that information is power, I hope, plays into this. We want you to be really successful. You've all been college students. You completed an undergraduate degree. So you already have an idea of how the academy works. What you may not fully appreciate is that we have higher expectations for graduate students than we do for undergrads. And I want to give you a couple of examples of that. The first is that your faculty are going to expect that you are an autonomous learner. And what I mean by that is that you will go above and beyond to seek out the resources and the information you need to make sure that you understand concepts, work, whatever it is. And the challenge there is that you have to really advocate for yourself. The other example I wanted to give of this higher expectation is the graduate grading scale. It's a good illustration of how the expectations are higher because we only have A, B, C, and unsatisfactory grades. There is no D in graduate school. And that's because we expect graduate students to earn primarily A's and B's, right? Because you have to master the material. Another example is the policy of academic integrity, which I can drop into the chat, I think, real quick. So certainly as undergrads, you were introduced to concepts around plagiarism and other things related to academic integrity. But faculty will expect that you have a good understanding of the different ways in which you could violate academic integrity through cheating or collaboration, etc. So I'm going to suggest that you go to that link and familiarize yourself with the academic integrity policy, because you will be held responsible for it. And it's just an important part of being a graduate student to understand that. Now, along with these higher expectations, we provide a lot of resources to support you. So there are some academic resources like subject librarians in Atkins Library who can be incredibly helpful to you. If you are working on research or a paper, I would encourage you to make an appointment with the research librarians. You'll find them just amazingly helpful. And for some of you, you may struggle with academic writing, particularly if you're writing for publication. It's a learned skill. And the Center for Graduate Life and Learning has courses in a variety of things, but in writing that you might find very helpful. They also sponsor writing retreats and have a tutor who works with graduate students as well. So it's a great first stop if you're looking for resources to support your writing. We also have tools that will support you. Many of you may be familiar with DegreeWorks if you had it at a previous institution or in your undergrad. But DegreeWorks is a degree audit tool, and it tracks you throughout your program and shows what you've taken, what you need to take. It's something you should get in the habit of looking at every semester because it's a really important gauge for where you are in your program. Now, I could go on about the Center for Graduate Life and Learning too. I'm just going to say that I hope you frequent it. It's a terrific resource. For our doctoral students, we have a new initiative that's launching in the next few weeks, and all of you will be invited to be mentees to an upper class doctoral student. So watch for that email when it comes out. We think this is going to be a really helpful resource for you. There are a few other resources that fall more into the personal and wellness category, not the academic, but we know you can't succeed academically if you're not taking care of yourself. So I want to make sure you know that we have a counseling center. We call it CAPS. They offer individual and group appointments for things like stress and anxiety. And I think that it's a terrific resource, and I don't want you to hesitate to use it. As most universities do, we have an office of Title IX. Now, Title IX is a federal law that ensures access to education for everyone. But in the university context, it's really focused on preventing and addressing sexual assault and harassment. So I hope that none of you need their services during your time here. But if you do, they have a wonderful staff, very professional and very supportive. So I wanted you to know about that. The last thing I want to mention is that we have a unique support for graduate students. We have a graduate ombudsman. His name is Bruce Taylor. He's a professor in the College of Education. And I think Aura just chatted a link to his information. If you're not familiar with an ombuds provides neutral space where they can confidentially listen to your concerns and try to help you navigate through the process. So he meets with students around issues of miscommunication with advisors or sometimes financial issues. So he's happy to meet with you, and I would encourage you to seek him out if you need him at all. So I guess the general information that I wanted to share with you, I hope these are helpful resources, but all of us, the staff of the CGLL and the graduate school, as well as all the other campus staff I mentioned, we want you to be successful. We don't want you just to survive graduate school. We really want you to thrive while you're here. So I am happy to have you here. I'm glad you're part of Niner Nation. Welcome and best of luck.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Ara Young. I am the Assistant Director of the Center for Graduate Life. Jill and Catherine have spoken a lot about our resources, but I don't think either one of them actually mentioned how really unique the Center for Graduate Life and Learning is. There are so few universities in the US that have a center that's devoted just to the needs of graduate students, because graduate students often get lumped in with all the undergrads, but your needs are so very, very different that it's really important that you have folks who know what graduate students need and they're there providing those services for you. So one of the ways that we stay connected with graduate students is through our Graduate Life Fellow program. So today I have with me this year's Graduate Life Fellows. What they do is they develop programming for graduate students. They come to us and tell us what graduate students need. They tell graduate students about the stuff that we're, the different programming that we're putting on. So they're a connection between us and all of the graduate students. So I'm going to go around, everybody's going to introduce themselves. And then the Graduate Life Fellows will answer as many questions as possible that you guys are chatting in. So let's see, let's start with Scienton.
Hi everyone, I am a fifth year PhD student in the computer science department, and Happy New Year everyone, and welcome to the graduate school, and sure, ask me anything.
And next we have Kati.
Hi everyone, I'm Kathy. I'm a PhD student in computer science as well. I'm in my 4th year. Happy New Year, and I hope I'm joining a lot of people who are joining the orientation today late at night because I'm visiting my parents in India. So hi to everyone who's attending at weird times.
That is dedication. It's like 3 o'clock in the morning there. Okay, so let's see, Poria.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to grad school at UNCC, and Happy New Year. I'm Purya, and this is my 4th year of PhD in Mechanical Engineering Department. Let me know if you have any questions.
And Erin.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Charlotte and Happy New Year. I'm Erin. I'm a 4th year doctoral candidate in the curriculum instruction program here at UNC Charlotte. I'm happy to be with you all this afternoon.
Kayla.
Hi, I'm Kayla. I'm a 3rd year Master of Health Administration student. I'm also getting a gerontology graduate certificate, and just welcome to graduate school here.
Caitlin.
Hi, everyone. I'm Caitlin. First of all, welcome to Niner Nation. I am a 2nd year doctoral student in biological sciences. But before that, I got my master's as well as a grad certificate in bioinformatics and my BS in biology from UNC Charlotte. So it's a great place and we're glad you're here.
And last but not least, we have Dylan, who was a Graduate Life Fellow in the past. Now he's president of GPSG. So Dylan, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure, thanks. Hey everyone, my name is Dylan. As Laura mentioned, I am the president of the Graduate Professional Student Government. So if you have any questions about that, I'd be happy to answer those. I'm in my 1st year in the geography PhD program here, but I also completed my master's at UNC Charlotte in philosophy. So welcome, I'm excited you're here and look forward to our conversation.
Awesome, thanks Dylan, thanks everybody. So what I wanted to open up with is we always get a lot of questions about how graduate school is different from undergrad. Like, what is the workload like? How many hours you spend reading and studying and that sort of thing. So since all of you guys were undergrads at some point, can you speak to that? Erin.
So one thing to consider, I want to share, before I was a PhD student, when I came back to Charlotte for my doctorate, I also came here as a master's student. And when I was a master's student, I worked full time. So I want to share that undergrad is more so kind of an all immersive process. And graduate school can be like that as well. You can maybe live on campus if you wanted to. You could be a full-time graduate student and maybe be a graduate assistant, or you can also be a full-time graduate student and work full-time, or a part-time graduate student. My experience during my master's program was as a part-time graduate student, and I worked full-time. And so I'll say there's some programs that are geared and catered to some adults that are maybe going back for their master's degrees or graduate certificates or doctorates. And so there's some flexibility there. You also have the option to decide if you want to be part-time or full-time, which kind of differs a little bit from undergrad, as well as the amount of credit hours. In undergrad, a standard full-time, you could be 12 hours for full-time, but most students, traditional students would take about 15 credit hours. In graduate school, 9 hours, 9 credit hours, 3 classes is full-time. And so if you are wanting to pursue full-time and work full-time, you have that options. That's 3 classes. If you want to do part-time, that's just under 3 classes. So maybe that's 1 class per semester, 2 classes per semester. So that kind of gives you an idea about that balance between your work, depending on how many classes you have and the amount of work that you might have versus maybe an undergraduate load where you're taking about 5 classes a semester.
Great, thanks, Erin. Caitlin?
So in terms of studying, it's really going to be what you put into it and how much you want to study. I will admit that I probably spend a lot more time studying than I should. That's just like a comfort thing for me. But really, like, there are a lot of resources available to you from the university to help you study smarter. I know that there have been a lot of mentions of CAPS, and I would be completely out of line if I didn't talk about how CAPS helped me manage the way I study and approach my coursework. So I think that they're a valuable resource.
Yeah, actually, the director of the counseling center in particular, she's really concerned about supporting graduate students. So we're really lucky to have her. What about like managing the reading load? Anybody have any advice about that? Let's see, Dylan.
Yeah, so it's definitely significantly more than undergrad. And one thing that's been helpful for me, and I'm not always the best at following this, but a professor of mine told me to time myself reading, give yourself a set amount of time, and then see how many pages you complete in that time frame, because everyone reads different. I'm actually a pretty slow reader myself. So when you know that about yourself, it can help you to manage your schedule and say, okay, I have this many papers to read or this many pages. I know it takes me, like an hour to read 20, 25 pages. And so that can kind of help you be strategic, because in graduate school, I've found that your schedule is much less structured by others. Professors don't really, block it out for you. So it's really up to you to kind of figure out how quickly can I get these things done? When are they going to fit into my schedule on a weekly basis? And so knowing that information about yourself can really help to balance things.
That's a really good point, Dylan. You have a lot less, you're not being micromanaged in graduate school. You really have to figure out your schedule, especially when you get to the point where you're writing your dissertation. If you're a doctoral student and you're out of coursework and you're just, you have to figure out your writing schedule and your research schedule and just hold yourself accountable. So that's definitely something to think about in the future. Erin, did you want to add something?
Yes, I just wanted to share a quick illustration. When I started as a first-year doctoral student, I was talking to another friend who was starting her master's, and I was complaining about all the reading I had to do. And she said, well, why don't you just break it up day by day? And I was like, I am doing that. So, one thing that I do is schedule it. And I was joking with her. I'm like, I have 50 pages to read today, and I have maybe 35 that I need to read this day. And it depends on the load of what your professors are providing you. Whereas if you are in a master's program, maybe you can break it up to 15, 20 pages a day. So just making a schedule for yourself is a suggestion as well.
Yeah, it's a good suggestion. So I think a lot of people are really concerned about online classes and COVID and how we're dealing with all of that stuff. Somebody asked, will synchronous online classes be held via Canvas, or is there another portal that we'll need to have for those meetings? What has been your experience so far with Canvas and what the different professors are doing? Dylan?
Sorry. I've had professors do a couple different ways. Some have used Canvas and put the Zoom links on there and sort of laid it all out like a syllabus. And then I've had other professors who will just use Canvas for assignments, and then they'll create Google Calendar invites for the Zoom meetings for the synchronous portion of the class. So it kind of depends on the instructor and the particular class in my experience.
Scientum?
Yeah, I'd like to second Dylan on that. It's just that along with Zoom meetings, most of the Zoom meetings are usually recorded. So if someone, has an internet problem, cannot join at that very moment of time, probably is in a different country right now, they can join in later and then sort of view it. So that's usually helpful.
Good. I think Poria had something to say, and then Caitlin.
Yeah, I was just want to say the same thing that Dylan said. There are like usually two ways. Usually the instructors, the professors put the Zoom link. We usually have 2 or 3 sessions each week or virtually, and usually the sessions are recorded, but there are some instructors that don't record the session. I know why, but you should be ready. So in case they don't miss the classes. Yeah, that's it.
Good to know. Caitlin?
In the introductions, it was stressed that flexibility is going to be key this semester. While we have that 2 weeks of online only classes, it's important to think ahead to when we might be in person, and being flexible is really going to help you there. In the fall semester, when we were in person, there were several weeks we had to switch to virtual and we wouldn't know until the day of. So keep close watch on your email, keep close watch on your Canvas, because sometimes emergencies come up with your professors too, and they've got to take care of that. So they'll accommodate to fix it and still make sure you have a great educational experience. Like, I cannot say enough good things about the way my professors have handled the weirdness of not knowing if we're virtual or in person week to week.
Kathy?
Oh, sorry. I just wanted to add that, don't feel scared if you ever need to ask a professor to set up a calendar that you can subscribe to or something. Sometimes it's easier to just ask for it if it hasn't been provided yet, just to, make everyone's job easier as well. Everyone's super friendly and informal here.
Yeah, that's a good point. In general, don't be afraid to ask questions, because a lot of us, we're afraid to ask questions because we don't want to make fools of ourselves. But it's normally just better to just go ahead and ask a question, and lots of times other people are wondering the same thing. So, and I was also going to mention that Canvas. I know last semester a lot of people had questions about Canvas. If you haven't been in school for a while, if you're, returning to graduate school, or you've never used Canvas before, you just go to canvas.uncc.edu, and that's the online learning platform. But each professor sort of sets up their Canvas a little bit differently. So it may vary from professor to professor, and also they might not publish their Canvas course until the day before classes start. So you might be sitting there wondering where your Canvas course is, but it'll be there eventually. Let me see. I don't know if anybody has any advice about this, but where would be the best place to go for help with a math class? Or I guess on that note, do you guys know about any kind of tutoring or how to find help when you're struggling?
So in the math department, there is a math tutoring center, MLC, or math learning center maybe. So they do have almost everyday sessions that anyone can walk into and ask any questions about math that they might have.
Gosh, that's really good to know. I had no idea actually, but if anybody happens to have the link for that, that would be awesome. What is the role and or difference between the advisor and dissertation chair during this journey? Caitlin?
So I think it's really going to vary department to department. But in my experience, my advisor is my dissertation chair. Right now, we're in the process of beginning to identify other people who can serve as mentors. Like your committee can be made of entirely people you consider mentors. And I think that's a great idea because when you hit a roadblock with your research, your direct advisor might not have the answer, but somebody on your committee might. So keep an open mind with who you consider your mentor versus your committee, because you can have multiple mentors. I highly encourage it. And it might be different across departments, but I know that in biology, your direct advisor is always your thesis chair or your dissertation chair.
Thanks, Caitlin. Erin?
And I'll just add, in my program, we choose who our dissertation chairs are. And so if you're in a program where you have a different advisor, then and you have the option to choose your chair, just build relationships with your professors, get to know people, look at different research interests, and just ask older students for advice about how to kind of make those connections when you do have to decide who you would have as your dissertation chair.
Let's see, and we do have on the graduate school website, there is some information about forming a dissertation committee. So you can find that under the current students tab. And actually, there's a ton of information under the current students tab on the graduate school website. There's all the forms that you might need for various graduate school things. And we have this petition system when you need to have an academic exception made. You have to file a petition. So that's under there. Gosh, what else? Lots of things. And all the thesis and dissertation information is there. So bear that in mind. Let me see. My Canvas currently shows not enrolled in any classes, but I have enrolled. Is this what you, is that, guys, for those of you who've been using Canvas recently, is that what you see if your professor hasn't published their classes? Does it say not enrolled? Okay.
Yes.
All right, so don't apologize. Canvas, yeah, we feel your pain. I guess you will eventually see your classes in there. Can graduate students have double majors? Actually, I have no idea. Can you? Kayla?
I know that some programs have like dual enrollment, like I'm in the MHA program and you can apply to do the health informatics one at the same time. But I don't know how it works with other programs, but there's also a lot of graduate certificates that you can add on to your master's degree if you're looking to add a little bit of something else.
Emporia, did you have something to add?
Yeah, I mean, it was just my experience in mechanical engineering department. So I started my PhD right after my bachelor's. I got my master's here at UNCC as well. I wanted to get electrical engineering major as my double major as well, but it wasn't possible. So, I mean, it was the policy, I'm not sure, but they didn't let me to do this. When I was getting my master's in mechanical engineering, I wasn't able to apply for the master's for electrical engineering. So that was the policy in our program. I don't know about the other programs. I just want to let you know about this.
Thanks, Poria. Let me see, we've got a couple questions about virtual groups for grad students. Do any of you guys know of virtual groups? I think it probably varies from program to program. So, oh, Caitlin.
We have a super unofficial group chat for all of the graduate students in our department. So that's about our virtual group. We plan our in-person meetups through that. They haven't been all that frequent this semester, given our public health situation, but we're looking forward to when they can be all together. And when you meet your cohort, you'll bond with them more likely than not. And that's a great way, if you don't already have a virtual group within your particular program, you can start one. I know that biology has gotten 2 student orgs off the ground in the time of the pandemic. So possible, but very difficult. And definitely worth it if it's something you're interested in.
Yeah, and I think that also, if you want to take the initiative and form some sort of online group to stay connected, or if you want to reach out to us in the Center for Graduate Life and Learning, maybe we can figure something out. Maybe we can help form a group. If you have any sort of suggestions like that, just be sure, get in touch, we'll see what we can do. But also in terms of student orgs, well, Dylan, I'll talk to you in just a sec. I see Erin has another comment.
I might have been heading toward where you were about to lead Dylan to as well, but I was just going to mention that aside from the Center for Graduate Life and Learning, that we have a lot of events that can also occur virtually. There's groups that happen too. So every week you will get a newsletter from the Center for Graduate Life and Learning, which is my favorite thing. I actually do read it top to bottom. Some people might not, but I highly recommend that you do. And there's opportunities in there. So I participated in a writing group virtually last semester, and it really, really enhanced my productivity. So that's an option that's hosted through one of the graduate school professors. And there's also graduate student organizations, which I know Dylan will talk about probably shortly. But a lot of those organizations, if there are department-specific organizations, it's likely that they'll probably have some virtual options for meetings as well.
Thank you, Erin. Yeah, I think we've mentioned a couple times about Grad Weekly. I actually send that out and it hits your inbox on Mondays. And I know you get a million emails and you don't want to read another email, but that's got lots of important stuff in it, including if there are ever any like funding opportunities or things like that, we put those in there. So read Grad Weekly so you can stay on top of things. And then let's see. So Dylan, we keep mentioning student orgs. Can you tell us about GPSG and student orgs and all that kind of good stuff?
Sure. So as part of the graduate and professional student government, we are sort of an advocacy body for graduate students. But in addition to that, we do sort of keep all of the graduate student organizations in a unified whole. So there will be one representative from each student org that will come to our Senate meetings, and they kind of hear some updates from us and learn a little bit about what we're doing and then report that back to their org. So we have about 40 or so graduate student organizations, and they all have different focuses, different missions. Some of them are, like Caitlin mentioned, born out of a department and they're focused on that particular discipline. Others are more focused on people's identity. We recently had an LGBTQ plus graduate student org that was started last fall. So it really just kind of depends. And for the most part, I can't speak to all of these orgs, but I would imagine that most of them do have a virtual component. So you can go to Niner Engage, you can filter out the organizations to graduate student organizations only and see if you find one that fits your interest or fits your program. Reach out to their leadership and get involved that way. So you'll likely be able to find people to connect with virtually in that capacity. And then also you can reach out to us at the Graduate and Professional Student Government. One thing I will mention about the benefits of being a member of an org and also being associated, with graduate student government in that way is that we offer funding to graduate students for traveling, which is a little dicey right now because of COVID, but traveling to conferences, funding to help your student organization put on an event like hosting your own conference here on campus, and also organizational funds to help graduate student orgs fulfill their mission if they need materials, supplies, that kind of thing. And so there's a monetary benefit to getting involved in that way that can help you further your graduate education.
Thanks, Dylan. And if anybody thinks of any other questions, having to do with GPSG, be sure and chat those in. And I was going to say also, thank you, Alberta, for putting all of our social media in the chat. You guys should definitely follow us on social media because that's another way to stay connected and see what's going on. And sometimes we have like little contests and things like that, photo contests and stuff. So be sure and follow us on Instagram, YouTube, and LinkedIn. Let me see. There have been a couple of questions about dress code. I'd say in general, dress code is pretty informal, but then there was a question about MBA classes in the dress code. Do any of you guys know what is it like if you're in the MBA program? Do you dress fancy? Gosh, I guess none of us are actually MBA students. I don't know. I guess you're just gonna have to like dress really well, and you know, like when you're going to a job interview and you want to like err on the side of overdressing maybe instead of underdressing. I don't know. Okay, so we did have a couple of mentions of like the writing resources. That is a difference between undergrad and graduate school, is the focus on writing, right, guys? So like you'll write a lot more, and your writing needs to be quality academic writing. So definitely, you know, take advantage of the resources that we provide. We have structured writing time. We have an in-person writing retreat scheduled for this semester, but I'm not sure. Maybe it will end up being virtual. Fingers crossed it'll be in person though. And then like actual 4-credit writing courses as well. And then I think Jill mentioned earlier, we have a tutor in the Writing Center who specifically tutors graduate students. So that's something you should really take advantage of. That's not something I ever took advantage of when I was an undergrad, but then when I was working on my PhD, I definitely found out that I needed to work on my writing. So, and then Jill put the link for the Writing Resources Center in there. Let me see here. So somebody asked what percentage of students here are working full-time and in school. And I would say a very large percentage of students seem to be working. And a lot of students have, you know, kids, or they're taking care of their parents. Like you saw earlier when Jill was asking about that, a lot of people are juggling a lot of stuff. So guys, do you have any secret, wonderful advice for maintaining your grades, Erin?
So as I mentioned, when I came to Charlotte for my master's, I worked full-time. I was actually a full-time teacher. So I had to balance schoolwork and also creating schoolwork for students. And so what I'll say about just like balancing out in grades, I want you all to consider, for those of you just starting graduate school for the first time, it's not the same as undergrad, where you have like a bunch of assignments that can sometimes feel like busy work, or, you know, the goal isn't to overload you with assignments, because usually when you're a graduate student, you're older and you probably do have more to balance. So it's more about like knowledge building. There's a lot of writing and reading. And so one thing I would say is that just building and kind of figuring out your schedule. I've heard a lot of graduate students say that they maybe wake up early if they're parents. Maybe they do like a 4 a.m., 5 a.m. That's not that's not me, but I can do, you know, I do mix of weekends. I used to do Saturday mornings, like just kind of finding in days in your schedule where you can kind of build it in. If you have a flexible schedule before class time, see if you can kind of go to the library. There are specific rooms for graduate students in the library that are awesome. There's a quiet one on the bottom floor. On the main floor, there's kind of a more open space. You can go to those areas before your classes if they're in the evenings, and maybe take advantage of that time. It's really just about kind of being more strategic if you are working full time, but it's definitely manageable and definitely doable.
Thank you, Erin. Yeah, there's no getting around it. Graduate school is hard. It's going to be hard, but you know, it's for a finite period of time. So, you know, you'll get through it. Caitlin. Wait, you're muted.
To jump on with Erin and her experience with the rooms in the library, if any of you are teaching classes, those first 2 weeks when it's still virtual, or any time that you do have to go virtual, I would definitely suggest trying to book yourself a room in the library. I know that teaching from a loud and noisy lab can be distracting to both you and your students, and just make for a frustrating class experience. So take advantage of the library and getting a quiet space to deliver your class material. It's a pretty easy process to reserve those rooms. You just go to library.charlotte.edu, and they'll have a list of links you can choose. Like anything you want from the library is all in one place.
Yeah, and like Dr. Hall-Hertel mentioned earlier, the library has so many resources for graduate students that maybe you wouldn't have wouldn't have taken advantage of as an undergrad, like the subject librarians, and they have information on publishing and copyright and all sorts of things like that that might be, you know, a lot more relevant to you now than it had been when you were an undergrad. And I would like to say, you know, if you are returning to school after a big hiatus, I was just thinking back to the person's question about juggling work and school. You know, if you're an older student or a non-traditional student or a first generation student, or, you know, any of these things, you're definitely going to find peers. You're not going to be alone. You know, don't be too nervous about that. You definitely have all of us to help support you, so you can reach out. But I see a lot of non-traditional students, and so I know that there's a good community, and there's good support as well. Let me see here. So we keep getting questions about Tb8 courses. Erin, what is this? What happens with the Tb8 courses?
I just added in the chat that typically that probably means that maybe that wasn't updated in Banner. So if it's not updated in Banner, typically your professor or a teacher's assistant would send an email right before the class meeting, and they'll just specify exactly when the class will meet. Or when we have that time, when we go back in person, they will also share the location that the class will meet as well via email.
Okay, great. Thank you. Hopefully this is calming some people's fears here. Let me see. So for those of you who have questions about finances and funding and transcripts and all sorts of things like that, we have this thing called Niner Central. If somebody could pop that in the chat, that would be really great. So if you have questions about your financial aid and a whole host of things like that, you contact Niner Central, and they can answer those questions or connect you with who can. So that's another resource for you right there. Okay, let me see. Somebody is really worried about time conflicts with classes. How common is that? How do you sort that out here at UNC Charlotte? Have any of you experienced 2 classes you need occurring at the same time? Oh, Kathy?
Oh, there are like a bunch of requirements that need to be done. For example, you'll have core courses and you'll have electives, but hopefully you'll have an add drop period and you can figure out a schedule that works for you. Most of these core courses, they'll offer extra sections so that if there is an overlap, hopefully you'll be able to take one of the other options that doesn't overlap and you can still get it done that semester.
Thank you.
But this might be specific to the CS or the computer science department.
Well, I think in general, if you have core requirements for your, I mean, you should be able to take all the classes that are required of you. Otherwise, that would be a big problem. Let me see. So where can I get my student ID card? I think we put that link way earlier in the chat, so we can do it again. So it's auxiliary services. We have the student ID card office there. And when you go to that website, there will be instructions, I think, for how to upload a photo and get your card. And also the auxiliary site has information on dining services if you go through there, and I think it will also lead you to like the bookstore website. So there's a lot of resources through auxiliary services. Caitlin.
So auxiliary services should be a page that you have bookmarked on your computer somewhere. Everything that is not like academic or health related for the university is probably under the umbrella of auxiliary services. And they are going to be the ones who communicate with us in the event of adverse weather, how you can eat on campus, how you can access the other campus amenities. So definitely be familiar with auxiliary services. You can go by their office and say hi if they're open in person. They're nice people over there and they can help you get to where you need to go.
Yes, exactly. There was a question about immunization requirements. If Alberta, if you could put the link for immunizations in the chat, that would be helpful. There's a page on the Student Health Center website, or more than one page devoted to immunizations. And so I think that you will find the answer to your question there. But if you have any issues, reach out to us and let us know. Sorry, if you guys hear funny noises, it's because my dog is snoring. And she won't stop. Let me see. So for those of you who are writing a dissertation or a thesis, does anybody have any recommendations for preparing for that period of your academic career, preparing for your proposal defense, or even like preparing for your qualifying exams, that kind of thing in our last couple minutes? Erin.
So a couple of things. One piece of advice that I received when I came in as a doctoral student was to kind of think about what you're already interested in. So if there's an area of research that you know you probably want to focus on, or at least try to figure out ballpark of that area of research and just build upon that. So if you have assignments for different classes, if those assignments are pretty much open to what you want to write about, try to write about the topic that you're focusing on. That way, by the time you get to your dissertation topic, you pretty much have literature, research, everything related to that topic that you will definitely specify later on. I'll also say, I don't think we've mentioned this yet, but the graduate school also offers classes. So when you do start seeing those Grad Weekly newsletters coming in, oftentimes at the beginning of the semester, at the end of the semester, you'll find out about other courses that are offered specifically through the graduate school. And I know that that's something that's really special about Charlotte. I hear from other friends and colleagues that go to other schools like not having this resource. And so I highly recommend looking into those courses, some of which include, there's a writing course for international students. There's other academic writing courses. I'm enrolled this semester in a writing, making dissertations happen course. And so there's specific courses that you can kind of enroll into if you're someone like me that is not just going to naturally write and do my work all the time by myself. There's courses and structure set up that can help you kind of structure out those processes.
Poria, did you have something to add?
Yes, so I would like to suggest for, especially for doctoral students, because probably they need to read lots of papers during each week. I recommend to highlight the important parts of the paper and write a short abstract for that specific paper and save it somewhere. It will help you when you want to write a paper, you want to write your dissertation. It helps you for writing the literature review. It will save you time, it will help you. I just want to recommend that.
Thank you, that's great. Yeah, I would say, I think that people have asked in the past, like, can you see old qualifying exams so you'll know what to expect, that kind of thing. I'm not sure if you can actually find somebody's qualifying exam, but you should definitely ask your more senior colleagues what you should expect all along this process, like what to expect with the exams and what the proposal defense will look like. And you should also attend their defenses and you'll be much, much more prepared. Let's see, Caitlin, did you have something?
Yes, I wanted to follow up, Poria, by describing a technique that's actually taught in one of the academic writing classes offered by the graduate school, and it's making a matrix of the papers you read. So you'll take down the pertinent information and basically distill the main points of each section, but you keep it in a matrix, and over time you keep building that matrix. So when it's time to make your dissertation proposal, you can just reference what you've been reading the entire time, and the work is consolidated and it's pretty and easy to follow for you. But definitely take that academic writing class. Like, I can't say enough amazing things about the content and the instructor.
Thank you, Caitlin. Okay, so it is almost 5 o'clock. So of course we want to respect everybody's time. thank you so much for coming, and we wish you all the best of luck this semester. If you have any questions that didn't get answered here, or if anything occurs to you later on, please reach out. My email is my name, aura.young@uncc.edu, and you can find all of the Graduate Life Fellows on the Grad Life website. So keep in touch. And like everybody said, read Grad Weekly, don't unsubscribe because it's important. And yeah, we hope to see you around in person someday.